Let's switch it to segment 2 before we open for you guys. So, if I start with what Elon Musk says, a part of his overall phrase, he said, as we go further, there is going to be an increased merger of biological intelligence with cognitive intelligence, right? So with that backdrop, so JP, if I can come back to you, what do you think these new technologies or whatever we heard since morning, right? There are new things coming in, it's an opportunity also. How should one transition to this?
Okay, now specifically talking about test professionals transition into it, we need to go back to our basics. Many of the test professionals don't understand computer science, they don't understand data, right? They don't understand the concept of cognition. Okay, only if you understand the concept of cognition, I can teach you about neural networks and NLP and other things. They don't understand statistics. So we thought this was okay, right? In terms of the button click testers that we had, it was okay because it was comparison, actual expected comparison. That was an okay scenario for us. That has to change. We need to go back to the basics. Now, how can they go back to the basics? They will not go back to the basics by themselves. Organizations have to make them go back to the basics. Okay. Now today we are talking about machine learning, and we talked about models. Now Vipul and most of us have worked on something called model-based testing many years back. We had it right in front of us. As organizations, how many of us forced our teams or as organizations adopted it up and said, you know what, let's do this. Had we done that then, we would have had better idea of modeling today. We would have been able to pick up, when we talk about data models and all this, we'd be able to pick up better. Most of these concepts exist in the work we do. Rahul today presented beautiful automation framework. That is no less than any other, MIT that can build, right? These things have to be incentivized by the organization, not only in terms of skilling and training. They say, go and do this. Try model-based testing and incentivize failures. You might try this out. Okay, my project or your productivity level that we expected at the first sprint is going to take a hit, or I am going to specifically spend this part of the budget as a POC, but we need to incentivize failures. If I am going to keep an KPI around that saying that you have to come out with this is going to be a problem. Because the best thing that we can do is manipulating data. Right? There are lies damn left in the statistics. Right? So if you're going to look at everything from a metric point of view, might not succeed in that. So organizations should help testers go back to the basics. Get these basics right. There are many of these concepts existing within test design, test frameworks, etc. Get them strong on those areas, and then this transition is very automatic.
So how many of you work on Agile or DevOps environments here? Okay, so good number. So I'll ask the question. Now, Vipul, if I can come in this order. So and you have seen this all that maybe more than 2 decades back, the developer used to write the code, and the same set of people used to do testing, and that's how it used to work. Right? I'm talking about when independent testing probably as a function was not born. Today, when we talk about Agile and DevOps, we hear about this phenomenon of shift left, that within development cycles, developers should be able to write production-ready code, right? And there should not be a need of testing it later, that kind of thing. So what do you think, what has really changed, and are we not back to the same point in terms of thinking?
I think we discussed that today in the morning. Technology is like fashion. Things come and go, you reinvent the same things. Some smart people give new names to things, and they make a lot of name and money with that. but things underlying still remain more or less the same. Of course, with new technologies, things change. It's not that nothing changes. So when I started my career as a software developer, I was told what is unit testing and what is integration testing. And I wrote a lot of unit tests, and I didn't know at that time, but I had written a unit testing framework for myself, and I used to test my code with that. And when I formally went to my team lead to say I've done my code, she said, okay, you need to do this kind of testing, unit testing, write test cases, show it to me. I did that, and she said, okay, now run it. And when I ran those tests, I got 0 defects. And so I went back to her saying, I got 0 defects. And she said, no, that's not possible. You cannot have 0 defect code. Have you really tested it? And it was my honesty that was being questioned. But well, I had tested it, I had removed the bugs, and then I ran formal unit tests as the organization expected. So was that not shift left? That was, right? There was no testing team. And then after a little while, I became the system testing team instead of doing development. And I wrote a lot of tools to do a lot of white box and black box testing. Of course, since testing was not a discipline at that time, at least in India, as a separate discipline, I was probably amongst the first few testers in the country. I used to write a lot of tools and used to test my code. Right from unit testing, integration testing, system testing. So today what do I see? The same thing being talked about again. But unfortunately, we seem to have thrown away all the knowledge that we gained in the last 2.5 decades of independent testing, the advantages, and what it brings to the table. So why did that happen? That's a separate interesting question. Certain alpha male developers got together, saw the light and said, this is Agile, and so on and so forth. I can tear them to shreds if I start discussing their philosophy. Because 3 days I did nothing. Every few minutes I would look at the Agile manifesto, I'd look at the picture, and then go back and think and so on. And I find that these developers, when they took this whole command in their hands, they didn't talk about testing at all except unit and acceptance test. Is that correct? Is there something called as independent or system testing there? How many of us are system testers? All of us. How many of us are in Agile? You have raised your hand. Almost all of us. What are we? Bastard childs of Agile? Or are we a need that these smart people did not foresee, did not learn from the 2.5 decades of independent testing lessons, and they went on to reinvent the whole thing? And now nobody is willing to admit it because it's a big mistake. And hence we use all sorts of words, 0 sprint or a hardening sprint and this and that. And we use all fancy words except saying, sorry, we made a mistake, we need specialists. I don't know about anything else, but we need definitely test specialists. We don't make that statement, we don't want to own up. And so nothing has changed.
Great. So, Deepti, if I come to you on the same token of the question that one of the things we hear in Agile and DevOps is the tools landscape has completely changed, right? The kind of tools, right? I don't want to name all the commercial tools we have been using now in this world. There's completely new kind of tools, and there's the addition of Jenkins, Puppet, Chef, and all that. So, what do you think? What is the kind of landscape which has changed, and how is this helping to transition into this Agile and DevOps testing space?
See, we have a confused generation and a confused pool of industries. If you talk about one organization and its case study, somewhere you would be listening someone going gaga about it, we have done the transformation, we are a truly agile organization, and then somewhere else they are, themselves are looking for some consultants to come and do the transformation. So you are actually confused whether the transformation has happened or not. The case study which was shared in a certain conference and on, maybe HBR or some loud media channel, where we are talking and everyone is referring to it, whether that transformation has happened or not. So what is reality is not good. I again go back to the same thing, awareness, personal awareness. Plus I also I'll come back to your question, but in continuation to what you were saying, I also feel that it is not one shoe that fits all sizes, right? There are enterprises which need dedicated, I would feel like that, COEs for testing, which ensure that whatever is going on production is right. There are startup setups, there are even startup enterprise incubations where you are having cross-functional team and they are doing everything on their own. So it is a combination of available knowledge, resources, skill set, people, leadership at individual level, which I advocate a lot, and then organizational mindset. Do they even appreciate that, or they find it rebellious? You know, shut up and mind your own business kind of thing. So it's not whether Agile is good or not, whether testing is needed or not, it is also what sort of organization and environment we are into, right? So again, as individuals, it is our responsibility. At the end of the day, you cannot blame your organization that they didn't give you enough opportunity or enough trainings or such kind of environment. My first job, I was hired for messaging broker, messaging queue, JMS based application, and honestly, I didn't get enough opportunity to code there because I was majorly working on the middleware, right? So now I come back and I complain that I'm not getting opportunity, or I create opportunity. So I go back and I see issues in the system, I create something and I propose to management. A lot of times they reject. It's not their mistake as well. There is this chain of roles and people and cadres, and they all are busy into something, mostly figuring out their growth path. They all are busy. So nobody is bothered about your growth. There are very few, handful of leaders who really bother about growth of their subjects. So it is your job. So you do not have to stop and you do not have to keep on trying and proposing solutions which can eventually help you and your organization. So again, individual awareness. And I really like the point when you were saying that how many of you actually think about what will happen to your job after 5 years. And Ritu was there from Arisent and she was talking about middle management has become midlife crisis for the organizations. And I really liked it. So yeah, that's what happens. So yeah, coming back to the original question, see the plethora of tools, everyone is fooling everyone around in the name of Agile and DevOps. Everyone is a master, everyone knows everything. So the thing is, it is about mindset. We joke about, if I take just one tool, Jira. Jira is poisoning the whole project management approach, and they are really bad, and then they are offering the Jira Agile software for Agile project lifecycle management stuff. Come on, man, it is giving you tagging option, it is giving you commenting options, it is giving you attachment options, but you are not using them. And then you are saying, oh my god, I don't know. I mean, since we are using Jira, we are in trouble. And Agile says, good enough, fair enough, right enough documentation. But then also there is so much confusion what to write in user story and what not. So tools will not do anything. Yes, there is too much outside there. We really need to figure out what works for us. We need to make best use of it.
Great. Another thing I see as a constant conflict in those testing professionals who are working on both the legacy side of the products and these new digital applications, right? So you'll have these mainframes still there, many cost product like SAP, Oracle, and at the same time you have these mobile applications. Now, so if I can come to you, Manoj, with that question, what do you think the software, the testing professionals who are working in such environment, what is the next step they should take? Because they are in the middle of both the sides. They have to support both the kinds of application. There are applications which are system of records. They still have long release cycles. They continue to support those, but these releases which are happening for mobile and digital application on a weekly or monthly basis.
Yeah, absolutely. So probably I'll take 2 minutes extra. I think I'll touch upon one important point. I think probably after this it may be a key takeaway for most of us in this who are testers and then can try something. One common question that comes to all of us is that what is your level of automation? Isn't it? Right? This question is asked always. You are walking in and somebody is posting level of automation, then you say 80%. The person who is asking this question will be thinking that total test cases, out of total test cases, 80% is your 80% of automatable is dependent on the manual test cases that we have written. They are somewhere. And again, that nothing guarantees that what is the coverage of those manual test cases. So again, it is subjective. Getting it? So what is that proving the point that when I'm claiming 80% as my automation coverage, there is nothing, right? You have manual test cases which may not be complete. Then you are saying automatable, I'm automating it, and then we are doing all this planning. But it happens every day. How many of us heard about a tool called ECLMA? Jacopo? Yeah? These are code coverage tools. And the simple thing is that the purpose of these code coverage tools is that package, class, line, log, method, right? They go up to line. And they are agnostic whether they have been called by a JUnit test or by a human or by a functional test. Now imagine on one system that you have implemented or deployed your application, you are running your automation suite and we claim that we are 80%. If I instrument that code in Jacopo simply and I may run my entire automation suite full regression, which I claim 80%, simply pull up the report from Jacopo and say what it says. Because until you bounce your Tomcat, it is going to keep the history. Right? Make sure that nobody touches it manually. You pull this report and you see what is your class coverage, block, method, line coverage. That is a real truth. So, you would know that what is the coverage you are having and what classes you are not covering. And believe me, you won't find that more than 60% of the class coverage you would find, because there would be a lot of legacy stuff. Forget about the line coverage, which is much below in the hierarchy. Got it? So I think all of you should try this out when you go back, if not tried already, and then see what is it.
Please finish, then answer.
Yeah. So you try this out. This one complements that what we were living in by saying that what is 80%. And this is not the metric. This could be pulled around again, correct? But this tells us what we should focus upon, or how we can get in more comfort that what is getting executed at ground, at machine level, is it what that I was used to think. So now that's the one part. Coming back to what Prakash asked this question, certainly there is a spectrum, big spectrum of companies in different spaces. From my personal opinion, the companies which are in the e-commerce space, all on the digital, their main prime business runs from the electronic media, whether it is websites, whether it is mobile apps, they would be indifferently, right? They would be asking those skills, they would be expecting those skills, because their turnaround time to deploy something in the market is way too high. And especially with the evolution of these e-coms where the funding is coming in, there's always a race that who ships this feature out first in the market, because they know first runner is going to take most of the part, right? So the guardrails, what guardrails they are going to provide, code coverage tools, the automation, they are very heavy on that. There are companies which are on the on-prem side of it. And again, within the on-prem, you may have hybrid models. That some part is in the cloud, some part is in the on-prem, and some may be purely legacy. Just everything is in cloud, right? So the curves are there. Some are shipping every maybe week or a fortnight. Some may be shipping every month, or a 3 months, or a 6 months. But I think the transition is happening. And then most of those legacy systems also, some part you will find that is getting into the agile, or they're trying to adapt to it, whatever fashion it is, which could be a subjective assessment. But I think there is a shift happening.
Related to code coverage, there was a product that we provided this service for a company. The product was in the market for 5 years. They wanted something done in 1 month. They didn't give us any money for any tool, so we wrote our own code coverage tool. And in 1 month we got the coverage. I was idiot, I didn't understand why is there this urgency. Somebody was buying them, and that's why they needed all this data. So if I knew that earlier, I could have asked them for 5 times the amount that I would have got it. So I feel very sad about it. The interesting part was when we ran their regression test suite that they ran every time, the total coverage we got for code coverage was 45.7%. And our target was to increase it to 95% plus for critical modules and 80% plus for non-critical modules. We were able to do that exercise using our own code base tool. But the fact remains that most of our regression tests don't cover 30-40%, 50%. That's tops. 50% would be tops actually. Because this was a product in use for 5 years, that's why I think it was 45. Otherwise, it would have been more like the 30% kind of thing. And by doing this exercise, we were able to reduce the number of regression tests by approximately 30%. Even at the time when we added a lot more tests to increase the coverage. So, when we now get into the continuous testing cycle, all this is very, very possible to have, on a continuous basis, monitoring how much coverage you have. And wherever your tests are not yielding you the coverage, you can actually fix this very, very quickly. To do it on a legacy system for the first time is time consuming, but then to do it in a continuous integration or DevOps way, it's very easy and should be done. This is the minimum hygiene that we should have in testing.
Okay, right. So I think that testifies that where is the effort we should put. And one more thing on those lines is that I will quote that one of my peer, he quoted in that the software engineering is like the gardening. You have to nourish it daily. You have to water it daily. You need to take out weeds daily. It's not that one day you think, okay, after 1 month, let's go and clean the garden. It's not going to bloom like that, right? So the tech debts which we call these are weeds. We need to spend time. We need to make it so that only it will look nice.
Okay. How many students here? Okay. So, Dr. Sunil, if I can come to you, my question is, so this is for both the students as well as the testing professionals. Many of the testing professionals are in the middle of their career, someone has just started, and students will be entering into the industry. So what do you think, what kind of skills which are needed for them, and how should they transition into the skills?
From morning they have been talking about Agile DevOps. Who know them, and we were talking about them 15 years back. Really. Agile was just entered into the market, DevOps very recently. Technologies are going to be there for some time, and definitely they will change and you to time. Very rightly you have mentioned about that fundamentals. I think the testers and those who are going to start the career in testing also, they should focus more on the fundamentals because the technologies will change, approaches will change. The fundamentals will remain same. So the core competency in the area of testing has to be there, and they should be able to understand what is expected and what does the mean, how actually data is to be interpreted, how actually critical thinking is to be done. You may have some of the test cases, you may have some of the results, but how to analyze them, how to interpret them, and how to conclude on some, how to take further from them. That's the point the tester need to understand. Another aspect is about which I feel is that attitude towards the testing that should be there. Because if you see today, performance testing have been there for a long time, and there were times when people were not talking about testing during the development phases. It can't be anymore. Today, developers are focusing on trying to build the software as better they can during the development time also, and performance engineering has to play a major role in future. We are talking about non-functional requirements here, which I want to stress upon. And this is another area that testers should take care of, that the users, if you look from customer point of view, because whatever we develop, whatever we test, it has ultimately to be used by the customers. So if I try to put a customer's perspective into say, let's take an example of mobile apps, I will come to that example. 1 out of every 2 mobile apps, there was a survey conducted and it says that out of 2, every 1 mobile app server, customer wants to have the app operatively in an effective way in 2 minutes. So
data science, I'm fine with it. The validation part of it is going to remain. The cognitive part of it is going to remain. Okay, but Deepti, I'm sorry, we are not an aware nation. We are, people are not bothered. I go and talk to people. I hold workshops, I go and converse with people, and they're still stuck in that mindset, manual, automation. This separation is the first thing that should end. Why should there be manual and automation testers? Testing is testing. Everybody should know automation. Automation is not a beast, it's not rocket science. It is part of testing. It should come natural to you. We should not put it out to a pedestal somewhere and we say, okay, there is a manual tester and manual testing is going to go away. Automation testing, there is nothing called automation testing or manual testing. There is only cognitive testing which is implemented via different mechanisms. You want to use a tool and call it automation testing? Good for me, I don't have a problem with it. So there are three parts of the problem. There is a cognitive problem, there is a skill problem, and there is an attitude problem. Attitude problem, we are way behind. Okay, starting from the organizational level, where testers were email IDs, right? Because we have a billing issue. We have to bill 8 hours a day for somebody else. So there were sometimes, they were just treated as email IDs which can log bugs. Okay, even developers are also email IDs in organizations at some point of time, or even now, because we want to shore up the billing part of it. So there is an organizational problem in terms of attitude, and there is the tester's problem in terms of attitude, where you are not looking at upskilling yourself. If there is fear within you, good for you. That fear is because of your incompetence, not because of the technology. Technology is a beast that you can all overcome. Skilling is not a problem. The cognitive part of testing is going to remain. You want to call it by any name, it will remain. Like he said, it was SMAC sometime back. Today is 8 AM and tomorrow it will be something else. I'm nobody to predict it. But as long as we understand fundamentals, we understand design, we understand testing concepts, we keep ourselves skilled, we are not afraid of this beast called code. Code is not going to eat us up. And it did once. And we don't see everything as a tooling issue. How do we solve problems these days? This problem is there, this tool is available to solve it. I'm not able to track it, let's bring this tool. Let's not see it as a tooling issue, let's start seeing it as a conceptual and design issue, and then probably some of those professionals will survive. The profession for sure is going to survive.
So until now, all the panel members have been optimistic. Vipul, we would like to hear from you whether you're optimistic or pessimistic, and then share.
To answer the question simply would be to deny me what I am, which in simple way means I'm not going to answer this question very simply. I'll start with a story. Many years ago, I met an engineering student. This guy was in computer science, maybe second year or so, fourth semester, third or fourth semester, whatever. And I happened to be conversing with him on the roadside. I don't know how I met him or how I started conversing with him. And I asked him about his future, what are you doing, what do you think future holds for you? And he said, oh, I don't need to worry. I'm a computer science graduate. I'm going to find myself a great job. And I looked at him, are you sure? Oh yes, look around yourself. And he was cocky, he was self-assured, which only youth can be. And so I gave him that, and he said, look around yourself, jobs are plenty. I didn't take his email ID. I told him, please don't be so sure. Times and life changes. Keep preparing yourself. And then 3 years later, this was a big problem, which was that even people from IITs were not getting jobs. That has happened once in this country, and that was that time. People with good skills are always scarce. If you call yourself good skilled, let me ask you a question. Other than your job, what have you done? And if you have not done much other than your job, doesn't matter how well you have done the job, chances are you are not really all that skilled as you think you are. What kind of exposure do you have? What kind of breadth do you have? That's one question. So, future of testing, does it really matter? Will there be any testing? So, why even talk about future of testing? Forget about future of testing. Is there any future in software? That's a question I'm asking. I'm asking all of you. Do you think software has a future?
You raise hands who says yes.
Those who think software has future, please raise your hands. The whole day we've been talking about artificial intelligence. Don't you think code would be writing itself? Sorry?
That would still be software in the short term.
That will?
That would still be software, yes.
Yeah, but code will write itself. Meaning I don't need human beings to write code, so I don't need human beings to test code.
You still need humans to test the ethics of software.
What ethics?
See, if you have,
There will be no human beings. What ethics are we talking about?
you're talking about the Terminator then.
I am talking about one potential future where there is no human being on earth because AI has eliminated human beings. That's one drastic scenario. The other drastic scenario is our life is, utopia. We are all living in heaven. Nobody needs to work. There is basic minimum income that everybody gets. All work is done by machines. Life is cool. I'm talking about that scenario. So if you go to other extreme, all work is done by machines, so there's no future for you anyway. So this way or that way, there's no future for you. Do you get me? Well, of course, we need to then ask this question, what do you mean by future? Tomorrow is also future. The very next second is also future. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. As was discussed today, there is no general AI as of yet. We are focused on that narrow AI, very focused. AI can do only certain tasks for which it has been kind of programmed. So that means, as of yet, you have hope. The only worry you have to be, the only worry you have is that I will be outskilled. And ask your managers, ask your recruiters, ask people who are responsible for getting the current job descriptions into the company. And you would see that they would be saying the kind of skills we need are not there in the market. When you go out of this company, because the company closes, because the company decides to fire you, because you want to get out of that company, it's been too many years, you work for one company for 1.5 years, too much time. You want to go out, you want certain job, and you might certainly find that there is no taker for your current skill set. So unless, in my opinion, you open your eyes, don't worry about 1 year from now, but look at at least 4 years, 5 years from now, where you will be. People manager, would you understand new technologies? How well? You become hands-off, and then is there going to be a job for you 4 years, 5 years from now? What are you doing for that? If not, then all these big talks about future of testing are useless because there will be no future for you. There will be no future for me. There will be no future for any one of us if we die. And not learning is death. That's what I just want to say. Not learning is death. Today or tomorrow you may or may not be aware of it, but it will catch up. And AI, I don't see most testers, for example, looking at it seriously. AI is a serious threat to your job in time to come. So how are you going to test it? And how are you going to use AI to test? That is what you have to look at. If you don't do it, we are at that juncture, in my opinion, of technology where it will make drastic changes to your life. Who would have imagined a few years ago a driverless car, for example? And is that not drastic change in technology, drastic change in your life? Suddenly your driver finds himself or herself jobless. So that can happen to us also. When software obsoletes us, right? Tell me, the work that you do, and this is my last sentence here, tell me the work that you do, how much of it is mindless repetition of something that you've been doing day in and day out? And if that is the case, you have your own answer, period.
So audience wants to know Is it finally optimistic? You are optimistic or pessimistic or optimistic with a star, with some conditions?
So why categorize? Why put a thought process into a slot? Why label it? I'm against labels because that's what most of the time Indic thought process is all about. Labels, they artificially slot you here or there. I'm all over. I'm optimistic for myself, I'm optimistic for yourself, I'm pessimistic for what you're doing today, I'm pessimistic for what I am doing today. Right? I can be both at the same time.
Okay, that's a great answer. So, yeah, you can clap. Don't clap. So with this, let's switch it to segment 2 before we open for you guys. So, if I start with what Elon Musk says, a part of his overall phrase, he said, as we go further, there is going to be an increased merger of biological intelligence with cognitive intelligence, right? So with that backdrop, so JP, if I can come back to you, what do you think these new technologies or whatever we heard since morning, right? There are new things coming in, it's an opportunity also. How should one transition to this?
Okay. Now, specifically talking about test professionals transition into it, we need to go back to our basics. Many of the test professionals don't understand computer science. They don't understand data, right? They don't understand the concept of cognition. Okay, only if you understand the concept of cognition, I can teach you about neural networks and NLP and other things. They don't understand statistics. So we thought this was okay, right? In terms of the button click testers that we had, it was okay because it was comparison, actual expected comparison. That was an okay scenario for us. That has to change. We need to go back to the basics. Now, how can they go back to the basics? They will not go back to the basics by themselves. Organizations have to make them go back to the basics. Okay. Now today we are talking about machine learning, and we talked about models. Now Vipul and most of us have worked on something called model-based testing many years back. We had it right in front of us. As organizations, how many of us forced our teams or as organizations adopted it and said, you know what, let's do this. Had we done that then, we would have had better idea of modeling today. We would have been able to pick up, when we talk about data models and all this, we'd be able to pick up better. Most of these concepts exist in the work we do. Rahul today presented beautiful automation framework. That is no less than any other MIT thing that can build, right? These things have to be incentivized by the organization, not only in terms of skilling and training. They say, go and do this. Try model-based testing and incentivize failures. You might try this out. Okay, my project or your productivity level that we expected in the first sprint is going to take a hit. Or I am going to specifically spend this part of the budget as a POC, but we need to incentivize failures. If I am going to keep an KPI around that saying that you have to come out with this is going to be a problem. Because the best thing that we can do is manipulating data. Right? There are lies, damn luck in the statistics. Right? So if you're going to look at everything from a metric point of view, might not succeed in that. So organizations should help testers go back to the basics. Get these basics right. There are many of these concepts existing within test, test design, test frameworks, etc. Get them strong on those areas, and then this transition is very automatic.
So how many of you work on Agile or DevOps environments here? Okay, so good number. So I'll ask the question. Now, Vipul, if I can come in this order. So and you have seen this all that maybe more than 2 decades back, the developer used to write the code and same set of people used to do testing, and that's how it used to work, right? I'm talking about when independent testing probably as a function was not born. Today, when we talk about Agile, DevOps, we hear about this phenomenon of shift left, that within development cycles, developers should be able to write production-ready code, right? And there should not be a need of testing it later, that kind of thing. So what do you think, what has really changed, and are we not back to the same point in terms of thinking?
I think we discussed that within the morning. Technology is like fashion. Things come and go, you reinvent the same things. Some smart people give new names to things, and they make a lot of name and money with that. But things underlying still remain more or less the same. Of course, with new technologies, things change. It's not that nothing changes. So when I started my career as a software developer, I was told what is unit testing and what is integration testing. And I wrote a lot of unit tests, and I didn't know at that time, but I had written a unit testing framework for myself, and I used to test my code with that. And when I formally went to my team lead to say I had done my code, she said, okay, you need to do this kind of testing, unit testing, write test cases, show it to me. I did that, and she said, okay, now run it. And when I ran those tests, I got 0 defects. And so I went back to her saying I got 0 defects. And she said, no, that's not possible. You cannot have 0 defect code. Have you really tested it? And it was my honesty that was being questioned. But when I had tested it, I had removed the bugs, and then I ran formal unit tests as the organization expected it. So was that not shift left? That was, right? There was no testing team. And then after a little while, I became the system testing team instead of doing development. And I wrote a lot of tools to do a lot of white box and black box testing. Of course, since testing was not a discipline at that time, at least in India, as a separate discipline, I was probably amongst the first few testers in the country. I used to write a lot of tools and used to test my code. Right from unit testing, integration testing, system testing. So today what do I see? The same thing being talked about again. But unfortunately, we seem to have thrown away all the knowledge that we gained in the last 2.5 decades of independent testing, the advantages, and what it brings to the table. So why did that happen? That's a separate interesting question. Certain alpha male developers got together, saw the light and said, this is Agile, and so on and so forth. I can tear them to shreds if I start discussing their philosophy. Because 3 days I did nothing. Every few minutes I would look at the Agile manifesto, I'd look at the picture, and then go back and think and so on. And I find that these developers, when they took this whole command in their hands, they didn't talk about testing at all except unit and acceptance test. Is that correct? Is there something called as independent or system testing there? How many of us are system testers? All of us. How many of us are in Agile? You have raised your hand. Almost all of us. What are we? Bastard childs of Agile? Or are we a need that these smart people did not foresee, did not learn from the 2.5 decades of independent testing lessons, and they went on to reinvent the whole thing? And now nobody is willing to admit it because it's a big mistake. And hence we use all sorts of words, zero sprint or a hardening sprint and this and that. And we use all fancy words except saying, sorry, we made a mistake, we need specialists. I don't know about anything else, but we need definitely test specialists. We don't make that statement, we don't want to own up. And so nothing has changed.
Great. So, Deepti, if I come to you on the same token of the question that one of the things we hear in Agile and DevOps is the tools landscape has completely changed, right? The kind of tools, right? I don't want to name all the commercial tools we have been using now in this world. There's completely new kind of tools, and there's the addition of Jenkins, Puppet, Chef, and all that. So, what do you think? What is the kind of landscape which has changed, and how is this helping to transition into this Agile and DevOps testing space?
See, we have a confused generation and a confused pool of industries. If you talk about one organization and its case study, somewhere you would be listening someone going gaga about it, we have done the transformation, we are a truly agile organization, and then somewhere else they are, themselves are looking for some consultants to come in and do the transformation. So if you are actually confused whether the transformation has happened or not, the case study, this was shared in a certain conference and on, maybe HBR or some loud media channel, where we are talking and everyone is referring to it, whether that transformation has happened or not. So what is reality is not good. I again go back to the same thing, awareness, personal awareness. Plus I also, I'll come back to your question, but in continuation to what you were saying, I also feel that it is not one shoe that fits all sizes, right? There are enterprises which need dedicated, I would feel like that, COEs for testing which ensure that whatever is going on production is right. There are startup setups, there are even startup enterprise incubations where you are having cross-functional team and they are doing everything on their own. So it is a combination of available knowledge, resources, skill set, people, leadership at individual level, which I advocate a lot, and then organizational mindset. Do they even appreciate that, or they find it rebellious? Shut up and mind your own business kind of thing. So it's not whether Agile is good or not, whether testing is needed or not, it is also what sort of organization and environment we are into, right? So again, as individuals, it is our responsibility. At the end of the day, you cannot blame your organization that they didn't give you enough opportunity or enough trainings or such kind of environment. My first job, I was hired for messaging broker, messaging queue, Jain based application, and honestly, I didn't get enough opportunity to code there because I was majorly working on the middleware, right? So now I come back and I complain that I'm not getting opportunity, or I create opportunity. So I go back and I see issues in the system, I create something and I propose to management. A lot of times they reject. It's not their mistake as well. There is this chain of roles and people and cadres, and they all are busy into something, mostly figuring out their growth path. They all are busy. So nobody is bothered about your growth. There are very few handful of leaders who really bother about growth of their subjects. So it is your job. So you do not have to stop and you do not have to keep on trying and proposing solutions which can eventually help you and your organization. So again, individual awareness. And I really like the point when you were saying that how many of you actually think about what will happen to your job after 5 years. And Ritu was there from Medicine and she was talking about middle management has become midlife crisis for the organizations. And I really liked it. So yeah, that's what happens. So yeah, coming back to the original question, see the plethora of tools, everyone is fooling everyone around in the name of Agile and DevOps. Everyone is a master, everyone knows everything. So the thing is, it is about mindset. We joke about, if I take just one tool, Jira. Jira is poisoning the whole project management approach, and they are really bad, and then they are offering the Jira Agile software for Agile project lifecycle management stuff. Come on, man, it is giving you tagging option, it is giving you commenting options, it is giving you attachment option, but you are not using them. And then you are saying, oh my god, I don't know. I mean, since we are using Jira, we are in trouble. And Agile says, good enough, fair enough, right enough documentation. But then also there is so much confusion what to write in user story and what not. So tools will not do anything. Yes, there is too much outside there. We really need to figure out what works for us. We need to make best use of it.
Great. Another thing I see as a constant conflict in those testing professionals who are working on both the legacy side of the products and these new digital applications, right? So you'll have these mainframes still there, many cost product like SAP, Oracle, and at the same time you have these mobile applications. Now, so if I can come to you, Manoj, with that question, what do you think the software, the testing professionals who are working in such environment, what is the next step they should take? Because they are in the middle of both the sides. They have to support both the kinds of application. There are applications which are system of records. They still have long release cycles. They continue to support those, but these releases which are happening for mobile and digital application on a weekly or monthly basis.
Yeah, absolutely. So probably I'll take 2 minutes extra. I think I'll touch upon one important point. I think probably after this it may be a key takeaway for most of us in this who are testers and then can try something. One common question that comes to all of us is that what is your level of automation? Isn't it? Right? This question is asked always. If you are walking in and somebody is saying level of automation, then you say 80%. The person who is asking this question will be thinking that total test cases, out of total test cases, 80% is your automation effort, 20% is manual. Isn't it? But as a tester, most probably, you're saying that this is 80% of automatable test cases. What happens? Correct. Now, again, this 80% of automatable is dependent on the manual test cases that we have written. They are somewhere. And again, that nothing guarantees that what is the coverage of those manual test cases. So again, it is subjective. Getting it? So what is that proving the point that when I'm claiming 80% as my automation coverage, there is nothing, right? You have manual test cases which may not be complete. Then you are saying out of automatable, I'm automating it. And then we are doing all this planning. But it happens every day. How many of us heard about a tool called ECLMA? Jacopo? Yeah? These are code coverage tools. And the simple thing is that the purpose of these code coverage tools is that package, class, line, log, method, right? They go up to line. And they are agnostic whether they have been called by a JUnit test or by a human or by a functional test. Now imagine on one system that you have implemented or deployed your application, you are running your automation suite and we claim that we are 80%. If I instrument that code in Jacopo simply and I may run my entire automation suite full regression, which I claim 80%, simply pull up the report from Jacopo and say what it says. Because until you bounce your Tomcat, it is going to keep the history. Right? Make sure that nobody touches it manually. You pull this report and you see what is your class coverage, block, method, line coverage. That is a real truth. So, you would know that what is the coverage you are having and what classes you are not covering. And believe me, you won't find that more than 60% of the class coverage you would find, because there would be a lot of legacy stuff. Forget about the line coverage, which is much below in the hierarchy. Got it? So I think all of you should try this out when you go back, if not tried already, and then see what is it.
Please finish, then answer.
Yeah. So you try this out. This one complements that what we were living in by saying that what is 80%. And this is not key metric. This could be pulled around again, correct? But this tells us what we should focus upon, or how we can get in more comfort that what is getting executed at ground, at machine level, is it what that I was used to think. So now that's the one part. Coming back to what Prakash asked this question, certainly there is a spectrum, big spectrum of companies in different spaces. From my personal opinion, the companies which are in the e-commerce space, all only digital, their main prime business runs from the electronic media, whether it is websites, whether it is mobile apps, they would be indifferently, right? They would be asking those skills, they would be expecting those skills, because their turnaround time to deploy something in the market is way too high. And especially with the evolution of these e-coms where the funding is coming in, there's always a race that who ships this feature out first in the market, because they know first runner is going to take most of the part, right? So the guardrails, what guardrails they are going to provide, code coverage tools, the automation, they are very heavy on that. There are companies which are on the on-prem side of it. And again, within the on-prem, you may have hybrid models. That some part is in the cloud, some part is in the on-prem, and some may be purely legacy. Just everything is in cloud, right? So the curves are there. Some are shipping every maybe week or a fortnight. Some may be shipping every month, or a 3 months, or a 6 month. But I think the transition is happening. And then most of those legacy system also, some part you will find that is getting into the agile, or they're trying to adapt to it, whatever fashion it is, which could be a subjective assessment. But I think there is a shift happening.
Related to code coverage, there was a product that we provided this service for a company. The product was in the market for 5 years. They wanted something done in 1 month. They didn't give us any money for any tool, so we wrote our own code coverage tool. And in 1 month we got the coverage. I was idiot, I didn't understand why is there this urgency. Somebody was buying them, and that's why they needed all this data. So if I knew that earlier, I could have asked them for 5 times the amount that I would have got it. So I feel very sad about it. The interesting part was when we ran their regression test suite that they ran every time, the total coverage we got for code coverage was 45.7%. And our target was to increase it to 95% plus for critical modules and 80% plus for non-critical modules. We were able to do that exercise using our own code coverage tool. But the fact remains that most of our regression tests don't cover 30, 40%, 50%. That's tops. 50% would be tops actually. Because this was a product in use for 5 years, that's why I think it was 45. Otherwise, it would have been more like the 30% kind of thing. And by doing this exercise, we were able to reduce the number of regression tests by approximately 30%. Even at the time when we added a lot more tests to increase the coverage. So, when we now get into the continuous testing cycle, all this is very, very possible to have, on a continuous basis, monitoring how much coverage you have. And wherever your tests are not yielding you the coverage, you can actually fix this very, very quickly. To do it on a legacy system for the first time is time consuming, but then to do it in a continuous integration or DevOps way, it's very easy and should be done. This is the minimum hygiene that we should have in testing.
Right. So I think that testifies that where is the effort we should put. And one more thing on those lines is that I will quote that one of my peer, he quoted in that the software engineering is like the gardening. You have to nourish it daily. You have to water it daily. You need to take out weeds daily. It's not that one day you think, okay, after 1 month, let's go and clean the garden. It's not going to bloom like that, right? So the tech debts which we call these are weeds. We need to spend time. We need to make it so that only it will look nice.
Okay. How many students here? Okay. So, Dr. Sunil, if I can come to you, my question is, so this is for both the students as well as the testing professionals. Many of the testing professionals are in the middle of their career, someone has just started, and students will be entering into the industry. So what do you think, what kind of skills which are needed for them, and how should they transition into the skills?
From morning we have been talking about Agile DevOps. Who know them, and we were talking about them 15 years back. Really. Agile was just entered into the market, DevOps very recently. Technologies are going to be there for some time, and definitely they will change and you need to start. Very rightly you have mentioned about that fundamentals. I think the testers and those who are going to start the career in testing also, they should focus more on the fundamentals because the technologies will change, approaches will change. The fundamentals will remain same. So the core competency in the area of testing has to be there. And they should be able to understand what is expected and what does the mean, how actually data is to be interpreted, how actually critical thinking is to be done. You may have some of the test cases, you may have some of the results, but how to analyze them, how to interpret them, and how to conclude on some, how to take further from them. That's the point the tester need to understand. Another aspect is about which I feel is that attitude towards the testing that should be there. Because if you see today, performance testing have been there for a long time. And there were times when people were not talking about testing during the development phases. It can't be anymore. Today, developers are focusing on trying to build the software as better they can during the development time also. And performance engineering has to play a major role in future. We are talking about non-functional requirements here, which I want to stress upon. And this is another area that testers should take care of, that the users, if you look from customer point of view, because whatever we develop, whatever we test, is ultimately used by the customers. So if I try to put a customer's perspective to say, let's take an example of mobile apps. I will come to that example. 1 out of every 2 mobile apps, there was a survey conducted and it says that out of 2, every 1 mobile app server, customer wants to have the app operatively in an effective way in 2 minutes. So they don't want to use any mobile app, it doesn't work for 3 times regularly. This is another interesting fact. So that they are looking not only from security point of view, that how secure the software is, but they are also talking about the efficiency, performance. Performance when we say it's about the memory usage, throughput, latency. So testing team has to look into that aspect, that how non-functional requirements are taken care of. This is something which, because I am from this area in terms of research, work in software liability engineering. And whenever I talk to the people from those who are doing PhD in this area or those who are in industry, I don't see many people talking about non-functional requirements. So this is the area I personally feel that if you look from performance engineering, this should be taken care in times to come. Fundamentals again, I say that should be a core competency in terms of testing people and also attitude. That's the third aspect. For the students, definitely, I just talk to the students and yes, as someone was saying in the morning and speakers also were saying, that there were very few takers who really want to start their, if they are given choice, to start their profession in testing. But I don't know why so, because testing itself is a good career to work on if it goes on. Because I used to see to the people how they were doing testing in the industry also. So that mindset also. And the fourth thing which I like to stress upon is that we have been talking about alienation. Testing industry is working in a way which we, as an academicians or researchers, normally very few, those who are interacting fine, but very few otherwise do understand that how actually industry is working on. Similarly, testing industry people, they normally don't attract to see that how research is going on academically at that point. So there has to be more relationship and alliance between the industry and the academia in terms of testing to bring some fundamental research into it, which is inclusive, which is contributive, and who is going to.
See, we here are very much lacking on that academia and industrial, interfacing. I go to regularly to XP conference and in fact Agile also. So as in this year in San Diego, XP was in Porto, and they have an indispensable academia track. And these conferences do not happen till the time they don't have a good merge of both. And outside there is so much, so beautifully, in abundance support to research work, even to the students who are in universities and haven't had any experience of industry, as well as industrial folks go back to the research and they work with professors and they come up with the ground level, and so we wonder why these conversations are there. But that is coming from the freshmen or the college students or the folks who have gone back to the academia. So it is actually difficult to expect our students, to study something and then work and face something absolutely different in the, industry.
Right, Deepti, but that was my point also, because ultimately, the testing industry had to get people from academia only. It is from the students are going from institution, and if we have a better understanding, better alliance, and we can better such environment at the institutions and universities level, where they understand, the students understand that what right now technologies the industry is working on, so that they can prepare themselves very in advance. And as far as psychological understanding is concerned, mentality is concerned, aptitude is concerned, they can be accordingly built in that area.
Okay, so with this, we enter into the last segment of panel discussion. So, floor is open.
I have been a part of one of the previous DSTCs as well, I think, which was conducted in Dwarka, Delhi. It's always a learning experience to be here. I keep attending some international conferences as well as events. My question is to Mr. Kocher, because I like his upstream approach while sharing his thoughts. I genuinely feel that there is an elephant in the room and it needs to be addressed. the jobs in the testing area are reducing. There was a time we had a team of 40 people sitting and doing a lot of manual testing, and today you see less than 20 people, 15 people once the automation has been introduced. The regression cycles have reduced tremendously, which is automation has led to this reduction. The number of work being generated into the IT field, I don't think it's exponentially increasing. The number of students coming in, the inflow is high. So I think it's high time for people to realize if you want to survive, you have to deal with the latest things. Some people are bound to go out. They need to be prepared for an early retirement. So I want to have your thoughts on this. I know you don't like to compartmentalize your ratings, but out of red, amber, green, I would like to listen your thoughts. Where would you actually put it in?
Thank you. Surat in a diamond industry, right? There was a time when all you had to do was take a ticket. So flight was come on ticket, take a ticket, train ticket, go to Surat, go there in the diamond market, किसी भी भाव पे खरीद लो और 10-15%, 20% profit margins पे ऐड करके किसी को भी बेच दो. That was the seed. So a cousin of mine went there. This is really easy. क्या करना होता है? खरीदना होता है, उसके ऊपर 10-15% मार्जिन जोड़ के बेच देना होता है. दिन के अंदर में बहुत पैसा बन जाते हैं. So he was very happy with that. For 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, we saw this guy. He hasn't learned anything. He doesn't know what a diamond is. He just buys and sells. और थोड़े समय बाद में there was a downward trend, maybe 6 months later, maybe 1 year later, and then 90% of the people who were there in that job, they just came out and started looking for another job. तो उसको हम बोलते हैं कच्ची फुलवार, वो झड़ गई कच्ची फुलवार. So if you are कच्ची फुलवार, testing is undergoing a shakedown. As I said, first of all, most of the CTOs, vice presidents of development and so on, they don't value testing, they don't understand testing. तो क्या समझ में आता है? हम agile हैं, specialist की कोई जरूरत नहीं है, generalist की जरूरत है. So what do we want to do? Automate. The moment automation is done, regression तो हो रहा है. अब testers की जरूरत किस लिए है? Out. And as long as that mindset continues, we'll have a problem. Of course, problem lies with us as well. Are we adding value? Are we finding them by our manual testing bugs that automation cannot find? And when they go out in the field, these bugs they escape in the field, it will cause untold damage to the company. Are we really doing that kind of stuff? Because if we were doing that, why would I give a job to a machine which cannot be done by it? क्योंकि हमारा सारा फोकस, हमारा तो इसमें डेवलपर्स को दोष देने की जरूरत नहीं है, हमारा फोकस सारा रिग्रेशन टेस्टिंग पे है. रिग्रेशन टेस्टिंग वो चीज जो बार-बार की जा सकती है. You keep doing that, well, let's automate it. Naturally, if your focus is on regression testing and you've automated it, and on top of that, what we talked about today in the morning, reduce the regression number of test cases by applying analytics and figuring out what tests should be done and not. What have you done? You reduce the regression test. Now even automation jobs are less. While at this point of time, everybody requires automation. So we have ourselves painted ourselves in a corner. So what needs to be done? One, show value in manual testing. And soon, in maybe a month or so, you will have a website coming up which is takingtestingback.com. Okay. So if you have any thoughts of how we can take testing back from clutches of evil developers, let's think about it. Whether we are today red or green doesn't matter. The question is, can we go and be in green? What do we really need to do that? So let's think about it. हम कहाँ हैं? वो सोचना important नहीं है. That's a defeatist mentality. What can we do to continue to be relevant? That is really the thing. वो कविता की कुछ लाइन है, ठीक से याद नहीं, but I try to say that. हम क्या थे, क्या होंगे, क्या हो गए हैं और क्या क्या थे, क्या होंगे और क्या हो गए हैं भी, आओ बैठकर विचार करें हम सभी. So that is the time that we have now to figure out where we are in terms of profession. It's a dire situation, believe me, and that's why this dialogue is important. This whole question about what skills do we need, how do we become relevant, how do we make people understand the need for manual testing, because today general AI is not there. This is the only general intelligence which is there. How can we make use of this and tell people no amount of automation is going to replace this? That is what we need to figure out.
So we welcome everybody to this
whole
momentum of taking the testing back. Anyone? Other questions?
Okay, I'll keep it objective, sir. It's to Khatri, sir. We are talking about IoT, machine learning, artificial intelligence, so many things. Do you feel that testing should be taught in the other disciplines of engineering like electronics, embedded systems, EC, EEE, so many other branches? Yes or no?
In fact, my opening remarks that have been there are on the same line. As I mentioned, that IoT by 2020, 2030 figures are there. It's going to be in every walk of life. And no business is going to be untouched by this. And definitely when you say IoT, you're talking about different analytics, you're talking about big data, which is a big word nowadays, and cloud computing. So you can't get away from these concepts. And definitely when we say that softwares are there, they are embedded. Most of when we say softwares, they are embedded softwares nowadays. You don't have core softwares much, but hardware which are running on software. And definitely in that case, we should have testing and curriculum embedded into electronics also, the EEE, civil, and other mechanical and other engineering aspects, and heavy engineering.
Because I visit many universities and hardly I see 1 or 2 universities in India which have software testing as a mandate subject in that discipline, and probably, sir, that was the whole idea, that big elephant is there in this room.
We at Amity do it.
Yes. And second thing is, sir, what is your opinion on adding secure coding standards or coding standards as a part of curriculum? We say testing, that is fine. But as you are saying, sir, testing will go back, okay, so many things. But why don't we improve the programming? Testing efforts will keep on cutting down.
Yeah, even I had said this point that fundamentals are to be strong, and this is where we have to invest much. Technologies will change. 5 years, 10 years down the line, you will, I don't know whether we have Agile or DevOps or something new will come. Technologies will change. They have to change. But yes, the fundamentals, the core concept will have to be there, and this is where we need to focus. It's something which is to be ever focused on. One more thing, which I had missed earlier, is there's a concept of SDET, Software Developer Engineers in Testing. There will not be much talking about test center of excellence anymore. And definitely we are moving to a concept which is where the testers also need to focus on the coding aspect. The quality is no more the responsibility only of any one aspect when we talk of software engineering, whether it is development or testing or deployment. It is a holistic decision which is to be taken. That yes, while we are talking about software development, throughout the process, quality is to be kept in mind, and definitely the standards you are talking, and definitely I am always of the opinion and definitely advocate of the concept where the industry should join hands to develop the curriculum, which should be embedded into the teaching day. For example, we had an understanding with Cisco on the network programs in Amity Institute of Information Technology are developed by Cisco only. They give it to us. Similarly, with Verity, we have a tie-up with Ijral system. So by not testing, companies can come forward and develop the standards where we can inculcate them into the students' practice while they're doing the training programs, their practicals, during the curriculum and teaching also.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to say there are so many things we don't teach in universities: design and architecture, design patterns, how to do industrial level coding. The maximum number of lines that anybody writes in even a CS guy for one single program doesn't exceed 1,000 lines most of the times. So what are we talking about? We need a lot of things to happen. Unfortunate.
One point, I think, towards pessimistic and optimistic approach because it has to go. Mutations will come, I think, but it has to go up and up and up at a time. And secondly, I think we had a big dip in 2001. Saturation point came and we have easily sailed through 18 years ahead. And all of us are here happy enough. So I think that's the another point. Definitely saturation has to be there, but somehow that's the human mind that grows up with every new technology and will say. So that's my point on that. Just wanted to make it. Secondly, thirdly is my question for all the mid-age engineers, that what you suggest as an hype cycle for the next 10 years for scaling us. I mean, how should we scale up in the industry of software testing perhaps? I mean, what do you suggest as a hype cycle for, like the Gartner suggests the hype cycles?
Is that a question to me?
Anybody, maybe.
See, I feel you have to do and what is the culture we have, especially in India, APAC. The culture is to continuously just respecting and nodding to it. You have to have leadership at all the levels, and that's what, I mean, if you ask me core values of agility that I draw, is you have to start questioning and you have to start proposing what you think is right and suitable, because people at this level think that they know the best, but they really can't see what's here because there are so many layers. And so, in order to have a right culture which helps everyone flourish and which helps everyone grow, which actually creates a cross-functional, cross-learning environment, an environment of growth, will happen. And that will only happen when people will question, will stand up to the things that they think are right. Because otherwise what will happen? There is a chain and they will keep on making decisions, and the decisions which you don't think probably would be fair. We all have heard a lot about wherein we complain that we can't grow because it is not appreciated. We can't propose solutions because it is not appreciated. We are mostly asked to mind our business because everyone else is busy in figuring out their growth. And I had a conversation during coffee break and lunch break, and that was the conversation that growth is stopped because someone above you is not very happy and interested in growing. He would not want. Similarly, we were talking about hiring also. So you are interviewing. Interviews are in your hand, whichever layer it is. I mean, top middle layer, middle layer, lower middle layer, whichever layer. So you would not hire the person you find more qualified than yourself, despite knowing that this is the need of the opening, right? So that's what I'm saying. So collectively, people have to stand up for themselves, be aware, and they have to question the status quo and whatever is happening, and have to, be partners with the organization. Unfortunately, we do not have headquarters here. We do have our big-size, small-size startup companies, but then headquarters are outside, and they're not even aware what's happening. Our leadership is mostly focused on cost cutting. But they can, so that's what I'm trying to say. So if there is a future is only there when you take your own responsibility, question and partner in solution.
Thank you. So, any further?
Just specifically from technology point of view, you were asking what technologies in next 10 years should we really be looking at? Was that your question? Yeah. So the speed of change, that's one thing that will govern what technologies come up in the next 10 years. And by that, just to give an example, DevOps, speed of change, right? You want to do things continuously, quickly. Every day you want, maybe 30 new builds to be deployed on your server seamlessly without any disruption and so on. So, that's one thing that will give rise to newer and newer technologies which you have to learn. I don't have names of those technologies yet to be invented. AI definitely is, its application in a lot of different domains and areas. So, testing AI and using AI in testing. These are two important things that I see that will continue to happen. At the same time, a lot of legacy systems are going to continue. A lot of people will continue to make transitions. So, learning any scripting or programming language and then going with the flow, going with the latest set of tools that are becoming popular, etc. That's another thing that we'll have to do just to, stay level.
Okay, so we are here for some more time. You can offline discuss if you have more questions. So thank you for being a great audience, and thank you for all the time.
Thank you.